When the Mexicans, Cortez, I think Cortez came there.
Yes.
Who was it? Cortez.
Mhm.
I don't remember. I forget all of that. When they came, of course, this is out of the subject, but history
Yes.
of Mexico, let's say.
You mind if I drink a little bit
Of
of water?
course, of course. When I'm speaking, because my speaking will be cut on the editing.
Oh, okay.
So, but you must start to speak when I finish, because in the editor must,
Cut it
listen
off
cutting,
and- yeah.
So, there were Mexicans there, or Spanish people. I mean, who's the nation of the Mexicans?
The Mexicans actually they're called Aztecs. That was the main society before the Spaniard came to America. So it was the Aztecs who lived there. They have their social life. They have their own systems of living, right? Their levels from the peasants to the kings to the governor to the priest, and they had just gods, like the gods of the rain, the god of fertility, the goddess of they have this god from corn, because corn in my country is the base of food. Corn now of course with the time has changed, but in the beginning corn is the base of food, and sometimes it was the transaction, the coin for transaction. So they had these different gods. So when the Spaniard came, they destroyed many of the temples, they destroyed many of the things, and then they, with their weapons and disease, because they brought disease to the Aztecs, they sickness, yeah, like chicken pox and stuff like that. Chicken pox, the one you get little pimples all over.
We say chicken pox. We say flower sickness, yeah.
Yeah, they brought it. We didn't have it, and they brought it, and then they, a lot of people die from that. So when they saw white people coming to the country, to the Aztec Empire, I think it caught them by surprise. So they didn't really retaliate or treat them as enemies. But then, as more Spaniards came to the country, they started to convert them to Christianity and
I see, very interesting story. So the Mexicans are almost how many percent mixed to Aztecs or Spanish?
Right now?
Yeah, right now. For example, in that country, it's possible to say, yeah, this is Aztecian. When you see the face, you can understand that.
Oh, yes. Like, we're mixed. Like, for example, in my family, my mom, her family is mixed of Indians from Mayans, which is on the south, and blacks. And my dad is mixed of Indians and Spaniard. So that's why our looks is not totally indigenous from the country. So you can tell, you can see the difference between one and another. But I mean, at the end of the day, you can find somebody that is really rich and looks, indigenous, and you can find somebody that is really poor and is blonde with blue eyes. So.
Yeah. And you said very interesting things that during the Aztec period and Maya period, there were some gods like Roman Empire, like other ancient history.
Yes.
So they changed to the religion can we say that there is Catholicism in Mexico, they changed the names of the god and they put some saints' names, some San Antonio. And
right, yes.
It's very interesting. This is the first time because we know that the Christians that existing in America and especially in Europe, they convert to the ancient history, ancient gods into Christianity. Because
yes.
According to me, the meaning of Jesus, in fact, let's say some of the gods, instead of Zeus, they said Christ. Instead of Poseidon, sea god, and
it's exactly the same conversion system that they had, right? They had pagans in like Jerusalem and the Romans, right? They were pagans, and they have a lot of gods. But when Jesus died, and they wanted to convert everybody else, then they mixed everything so people will be easier to practice Christianity. So the same thing happened in the Americas. All America, Latin America, South America, it was the same thing. They took their own gods and switched them into a virgin, or this is going to be the Jesus of this mountain, for example. So the indigenous will have, instilled in their minds is their God, but in the mind of the Christians that came to convert them, they're practicing Catholicism. So it's not the real deal, I will say.
Yeah, according to you, the Mexicans or Americans, which nation is more religious?
Mexicans. Yes, and one example I can give you is Christmas. Here in the U.S., Christmas is all about Santa Claus and the gifts under the tree. In my country, is about praying. They pray that day. My mom, for example, the youngest of the family has to place the baby Jesus on Christmas, and they pray. And we used to go to church that night, and then it's a family night. Everybody eats together, and then after that, then you can go whenever you want. But it's a family function and it's a religious function. It's not about presents. We acquired the presents later on, but it was actually, it's more a religious thing.
Okay. Let's come to, you said you go to the religious school. It was like primary school or something like course? Or?
Yeah, it was like Sunday school for Muslims, right? That you go to the mosque and they teach you the basics of Islam when you're little. So it was kind of like that. My mom was, she started going to these Catholicism classes, and they had special classes for the kids. So that's when I used to go. It was a convent for nuns. So the nuns will teach us, like Nuhu story, the Noah story and Job story, and just Bible story, Bible time. That's what we will do. And then we will used to draw. I'm not a very good drawer. And one thing that sticks in my mind until now is that one time I draw probably Jesus and the cross or whatever, and I show it to the nun, and she looked at me. I make stick dolls, and she looked at it and she's like, "This is horrible. This is so." I was like 7, 8 years old. This is just terrible. What, I mean, you call this drawing? So that sticks in my head. It sticks forever. So it wasn't very pleasant. I didn't like to go.
And you were going to the Sundays only?
Yeah, we don't go on Sundays because Sunday is church day. So we used to go with my mom on the afternoons on Thursdays. We used to go on Thursdays, yeah.
Your mother were priest or no? She were ordinary, the lady who worshiped?
Yeah, she was just a worshiper. She didn't, she would just take the classes, but she's very Catholic. When I convert to Islam, she actually wanted to talk to the priest. Like kind of like to make sure I was not going to hell.
We will speak in this subject after that. We will
Okay.
Remind. Okay, let's come to education because I must.
Yes.
Your
Yes.
That's why we will come after the converting. The education. Please talk. Where did you educate? Primary school. What's the name of school?
Okay.
Location, and then come to how much.
Okay, I went from the primary school to high school. I went to the same schools that my brothers went. So the elementary school was the name is Escuela de Guelatao. That was the school name. It's 6 years. Then from there I went to the middle school. Which at this point they're all public schools. I never went to a private school. They're public schools, and it was called Escuela Federal, like federal school number 1, number 2. So I was in number 3. So that's where I went for the middle school. And the high school, it's called Colegio de Bachilleres, and it's also a public school. And in my country, public schools are very, very good. The system is almost as good as the ones here in the U.S. So they prepare us very good in primary school. And then after that, I went to college. I went to engineering and textile engineering, and I was there for 2 years. Between that time, also, I worked in a factory with one of my cousins. I was in charge of the lab, the tincture lab. They used to do the fabrics for the jeans, for Guess, Calvin Klein, all of these brands. They make them in Mexico, the fabric, and then they also put together the jeans in Mexico, and then they bring them to the U.S. to have them stamped with the brand name, and then send them back to sell them again. So I was working there, and I was going to college. So I worked nights, and I went to college during the day. That was the time when I met my husband. So I only did 2 years of college, and after that,